We're live.
And we are live. Welcome to episode number 34 of the Risk Reward Show presented by Risk Reward Media. My name is Cris Mercado, aka Mr. Risk, and as usual, I am joined by
Mr. Reward.
That's right, and we are here to help you find the upside in your career, in your business ventures, and in your personal life. This week, we will continue our diversity initiative series, Progress or Pandering. I'm going to do part 3 and talk a little bit more about diversity hiring. Before we get to that, we will start with our Risk Reward Weekly Rewind segment. And I think we're going to start with something spicy here. Derrick, let's talk about the closer, Dave Chappelle, Netflix, and cancel culture. What you got?
First of all, it is a lovely name for his last special for the Netflix, like The Closer, like perfect name. But basically cancel culture is trying to come after Dave Chappelle for all of the jokes he had within this new special. What I will say is that his not his jokes, but like his storytelling was heavily around like, you know, the transsexual community, basically just stating, you know, as Dave, you know, always does, he's just telling jokes about it and just basically making comparisons. But within the special itself, I mean, there was a moment where he said, like, guys, like, I'm just telling jokes. If you feel as if I'm trying to harm you, it's not coming from a place of malice. This is me just telling you how I feel. But I feel like in this day and age, we give celebrities too much, I guess, what's the word? I feel like we give them too much credit for like everything that they're actually saying. And when it comes to that, like, I feel like at the end of the day, people have to realize he is a comedian, regardless of if he says, like, if it's mean, if it's harmful. His job is to make you, you know, feel uncomfortable with like his types of jokes and stuff like that. So you have people within the trans the community that are really trying to take down the special. The reasons why they want to take it down, just like I said before, is because of the jokes he said. It may have come off as like, you know, he's like, you know, he hates trans people, but not at all. Another thing I will say is, like, it's cool to see, like, I feel like people put Dave Chappelle in like this special box because you're so used to him telling jokes, but now he's like telling stories. Like, I think Dave Chappelle is one of the best like storytellers ever. So the way how he's setting up these jokes, it's like it really makes you think. And I feel like the fact that these jokes make you think so hard, it really touches like the inner part of you to where like you're just like, damn, like, is like, do I do that, or is this really me? So cancel culture is really trying to come after him, but they're not gonna cancel Dave. No one will never stop watching Dave. So it's just another example of how cancel culture is trying to come after anybody who they do not agree with at all.
So Chappelle is one of the greatest storytellers of our lifetime. He has so much power, so much backing from folks like Netflix. I believe the CEO had a statement in support of Dave Chappelle and the closer. I do think that he has picked on the trans community, the LGBTQIA+ community, a bit too much. It has gotten to the point where I think the last few specials, this comes up each time in varying degrees, right? I think this one has been the one that I guess we've heard the most backlash from, but we've heard it before. So there comes a point where, like, listen, Dave, like, you're amazing. I know the point that you're trying to make in terms of the treatment of Black folks, but he's missing out on, one, intersectionalities, here, but like, how are you, like, you're trying to look out for Black folks, but then if you are punching down on like the trans community, then, you know, how are Black trans folks supposed to feel, right? How are Black lesbian, Black gays supposed to feel like during that special? They can't separate those identities. And I think that's where Chappelle's kind of missing the point. And yeah, he has the power to be like, you know, I'm not worried about it, but he's not doing service to his legacy and his talent. So especially as we talk about this, so today is National Coming Out Day, right? And I want to acknowledge and celebrate queer folks, all shapes, sizes, backgrounds. Like it takes a lot of courage to come out in pockets of society that just aren't accepting. And seeing the closer might not make someone feel comfortable coming out. So like I'm siding against Dave Chappelle on this one. I think there's been a consistent enough track record where, all right, maybe it's a good thing that this is the last one in the series, but it's time to stop punching down so much on the trans community to make a point or many points about how Black folks are treated. There are other ways to do it. He's done it in other ways in the past. So let's go back to that genius. So
are you sure that you haven't seen it? Because that was the line that he was saying too, punching down.
Well, yes. So there's a lot of punching down, and Black folks get punched down a lot. But we don't have to punch down on others to show how much like a group that you identify with has been punched down. Like you don't have to do that. He's talented enough to not do that. So I think there's other comparisons that could be made, and because he's so skilled as a storyteller, like let's dig a little deeper. And again, like comedy, how it was done in the late 90s, early 2000s. Look, I love Chappelle, like the Chappelle Show, right? I love it. There's a good deal of it that wouldn't be acceptable now. It would rub people the wrong way. So it was just a different time. And like sensibilities change over time. We need to accept that. That's why, you know, like when folks talk about how racism was back, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there's an element of, you know what, we need to have some understanding of the context of those times and not completely apply our current sensibilities to what things were going on back then. But you know, at the same time, you know, looking at again the comedy that we laughed at 10, 20 years ago, the music that we like, I mean, bumping R. Kelly now isn't as acceptable as it was, what, 10, 15 years ago?
It's funny that you say that. Literally, there was a barbecue that I drove past and they were playing it and they were all stepping. They were all stepping.
I mean, you know, again, you can separate art and artist, right? But yeah, you can find pockets, and yes, I do play, you know, some of the music. I still watch the Chappelle Show episodes. I still laugh at some of the insensitive, even some of the insensitive jokes towards like Asian communities. But I don't laugh as often and I don't laugh as hard because of all the things that are going on now, right? And I know Dave recognizes that. because he's fighting back against cancel culture, but I don't think this is a fight against cancel culture. I think this is a broader fight about making a point without having to denigrate other marginalized communities. I think that's where we're at now. And again, there's been enough of a track record here where I think he can move on, and he will be moving on because that's his last one for Netflix. He'll do other shows. He'll continue his great career, and hopefully, he'll find some other way to demonstrate his genius. So, but thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, and I'm glad you brought it up. It is timely. It is National Coming Out Day, so it's important for us to discuss that on this day. The second
what do you got for us?
Yeah, second point we want to bring up on the weekly rewind. So totally unrelated, but Bitcoin is back at 57K after visiting the 30Ks. I wrote it down. I wrote it up. I haven't touched my position in Bitcoin. I probably should have more Bitcoin. But what have you done during this, I guess, turbulent time? Nothing?
I've just enjoyed it. That's all. I've just
really enjoyed it.
Not now. I bought it when it dipped. I definitely bought it on the dip. So when it was like in the 40s, I bought some in like the low 50s too. But now that it's like at over like 55, I would just ride it out until it reaches that 100K price point, honestly. But if it ever does go back down, then I'm definitely gonna buy more. But the good thing is that when Bitcoin goes up, all of the other coins do. So there are some coins that I mean, the way how I view coins, like you have certain coins that I want to keep because I do think that the use cases for them are like very, very useful. But there are some coins that literally just follow that trend. So if Bitcoin is up, then they just like go up. So there are some coins that I've been playing around with just for like profit wise, just because if Bitcoin goes up, then that coin goes up. So I've been making gains literally all since I think it hit like 57. When was it? I think it was over the weekend it did. But yeah, ever since then I've just been enjoying it. But I'm very happy that it's going to be this high, but I'm pretty sure it's going to dip just like pretty soon. But for me, I've just buy low and I'm just hold.
I put in an order, but I didn't get it where I wanted, and I was hoping for it to hit like the high 20s, but it didn't go down that far. So I thought about buying more. I'm okay with it. I don't think the volatility across markets is over for this fall. So maybe there's another blip down that I might consider jumping in on. But yeah, long-term hold. So don't worry about it too much day to day. Don't want to trade it like crazy because we have so many other responsibilities and we have businesses to run. But it's interesting to see it back up. So kudos to everyone who weathered the storm and are now enjoying Bitcoin's ride back to 57K. And with that,
buy and hold.
Yeah, and with that, we can go on to our main topic. So this week we are closing out our 3-part series on diversity initiatives, progress, or pandering, by discussing in greater depth our views on diversity hiring. So we had, early on in the Risk Reward Show, we had talked about concepts like pedigree bias. We are featured in a report by Hired. And, we had talked about this idea of how destructive pedigree bias can be in terms of company efforts to really diversify and be more inclusive. So Derrick, I wanted you to take it away in terms of explaining more about what pedigree bias is and how it really impacts the DEI space.
Yeah, so basically with this the pedigree bias, you have a lot of people that are basically recruiting from like the same schools. You have your people that are like recruiting from like your Yales, your Harvards, your Browns, and stuff like that, like all of these like Ivy League schools. I will say for the most part, people of color don't really go to those schools. You don't. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's like higher just like numbers and stuff like that. But normally, you don't see a lot of people of color going to these Ivy League schools. So therefore, there if I'm Facebook and I'm just like recruiting people from like these companies here, I'm usually getting like the same type of person every time. So for me, I know for our work, something that I talk to a lot of like hiring managers about is basically removing that college degree requirement because it really hinders the amount of applicants that can apply. The reason being is because one, college doesn't have that prestige that like it once had. I think a lot of people are finding other ways besides college. One because of cost. One because maybe college doesn't have like exactly what you want to do, and frankly, it's probably too long. Like, who wants to go to school for 4 years when there's programs out there when you can learn a skill within like a year or two, and then boom, you're hired. So the college I guess like badge doesn't it doesn't hold the same weight that like it actually used to. So with a lot of these hiring managers that I do speak with, a lot of them still want people to have like a bachelor's or like some type of master's or something, and I'm constantly telling them that I can show you talent that is as good as someone who's coming from a 4-year college. And then when I prove them wrong and saying like, yes, you're hiring for the person to do like, this like certain skill. And because they went to this program or they kind of either like they self-taught, they're able to get the actual job done. So having that requirement really doesn't, qualify you over like the next person here. So basically just removing that bias of like, you need to have your bachelor's, associates, or master's like in order for you to work here. I will say that there has been progress within diversity hiring, not the progress that we both want to see, but within the groups that I'm in, and I'm pretty sure the groups that you're in, that you do see a lot of people of color that are within like these tech roles. A lot of them are either in like that entry level role, but I wish we would see more people in like that's in those like senior level roles. But I'm pretty sure within time that will just like happen. But as for right now, I will say there is progress. It's not the best progress, but there is. But we are moving towards like the right uh direction with having more people of color within like these tech roles. Something I do want to bring up, I know you had a chance to read it also, but it's this diversity and tech hiring report by M3. For anybody who wants to read it, just literally just Google search diversity in tech 2021 M3, and then that PDF should just like pop up. It's a very good. I think it's about like 20 pages, but it's a very good read. And basically, it just talks about the landscape within diversity within tech. Two things I just wanted to bring up, two of the most shocking things for me is that yes, people are coming into these tech roles. You do see a lot of companies that are hiring more like entry level people, which is great. But the bigger issue is that these people aren't staying there. Within the article, or sorry, the report from M3, something that they mentioned was that people from the ages of 18 to 28 are basically not staying at these companies because they don't feel comfortable. And with that being said, like you have them, it's easy to bring like people in, but for them to actually stay, that's where the actual problem is. They're uncomfortable because I know before we spoke about the employee resource groups. Not a lot of companies have those, which is like a reason why people don't stay there. People just don't feel comfortable. There's probably certain policies in place that people just don't like. And another big thing was that within that report itself. I think they surveyed about like 2,000 students. It literally said 39% of them never learned about tech roles within high school or in college, which I think is crazy. I do think now we're at like a time where tech itself is, something that is like kind of known, even though you may not know what a full stack person does. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. But the fact that there's not like that early level knowledge of what tech is, I think that also creates like a bigger problem with companies trying to hire people of color. And something that the article mentioned, or sorry, the report mentioned, is that there needs to be a lot more, I guess, like with regards to letting younger or like youth know about these roles within tech. So all in all, I do say that there is progress within it, but we still have a long way to go.
Sure. So there's a lot there, and I'll reference. So you referenced the M3 study. So M3 is part of Wiley. You might know it from research and educational publications. I know going to grad school, I saw Wiley a lot in some of the publications that I read. And they did survey, it was actually early career tech folks and also business leaders. So over 2,000 early career tech workers, and then close to 300 business leaders. And this was put out at the big Arizona State University Global Silicon Valley Summit. It's in its like 10th year now. And when they put out the report, what stood out to me the most actually was everybody surveyed, so that's almost 2,300 people, 64% said that they believed that people from minority backgrounds were being discriminated against in the recruitment process for tech roles. And that belief should be scary for businesses, right? Even if that wasn't actually true for a particular company, that discrimination wasn't going on, like they would have facts to back it up, that really widespread belief, it's hard to get people to look at the facts when they have such entrenched beliefs. And this is where a lot of companies have to be very proactive in terms of their recruitment process, their hiring process, but also transparent about their recruitment and hiring data. That's the only way you're not just gonna get like better outcomes in terms of the diversity of your workforce, but also to have people actually believe that they're not being discriminated against, that folks of color and marginalized groups are not being discriminated against. So that kind of transparency and being proactive, that has to be at the forefront for all companies, or else they risk this widespread belief really being more entrenched in people. So that's what I got out of that study. And then we'll move on to this idea of pedigree bias. And you mentioned, why should we, not, require college degrees especially for like early career roles. And some context here that's important is, there's still a 4-year college degree attainment gap, between race and ethnicity. So there's data from the Post-Secondary National Policy Institute from 2019, where 29% of Black folks in this country have, Black folks between the age of 25 to 29, like 29% have a 4-year degree. but their white counterparts, 45% have a college degree. So by requiring a college degree for an early career role, you are being more advantageous to white folks just based off of college degree attainment. And it's no wonder why you're going to have diversity and inclusion issues at your company if all of your early career roles required, college degrees when it really shouldn't, because it's really skills over degrees, particularly within those early roles. So again, that for me, context is king, and when you tie it all in together, it doesn't make sense to have a college degree requirement for so many early career roles.
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's this company that I'm working with now, and they're basically looking to hire more people of color for like their roles. And for them, I did let them know that they need to get rid of that. Just because I mean, now that you gave me some insight onto that, like that 29% versus that the 45, that's something that I can bring to them now, just to let them know like of why like you should. But eventually, like they actually did, but the reason that I gave was just because of like what I said about colleges is now you have more people going to like either boot camps or just like self to teaching themselves. But yeah, I mean for the, I guess, the balance to be off like that, I think that's something that needs to be done like ASAP. I think it's hard. Like sometimes some of these hiring managers I just wanted to strangle, because I'm like, I know what you're trying to do, but you're just doing it the wrong way. Like you're hiring the wrong way.
Yeah, and we see big companies making investments in HBCUs, right? I believe Netflix has a partnership with I believe it's Howard.
I think so.
Yeah, they've created a funding pipeline, and that is partly Netflix, wanting to get close enough to mine for some gems in this talent pipeline, right? Mm-hmm. From Howard. So I see progress there. I see, like, I've recommended several folks who are currently in a Google fellowship program catered towards Black and other underrepresented group populations. And they're in there, they're getting paid, get paid quite well just to learn. And, I see Google's commitment, but then I also wonder, well, what's the next step here? Are they going to be more likely to be interviewed for full-time roles after they finish their fellowship? It's great that they get paid well in training, but ultimately the goal is for them to start their careers in these full-time roles. So I also want to see that follow through. And, again, I'm encouraging companies here to look beyond, the typical, big brand name schools. And, we come from the City College of New York, a great public institution. It's highly ranked according to those, college ranking lists. And I think big companies should do a lot more investing in starting recruitment pipelines there if they want to stick to the traditional, college, university recruitment programs. But again, expanding beyond to, boot camp like programs, and finding other ways to source talent out there. Again, it's skills over degrees at this point in time, and I hope companies start to make these changes in their hiring processes, their recruitment processes, because it'll be a win-win for everyone. And yes, it might take a lot more work, but the risk is if you're a company and your diversity statistics still continue to be like awful, and people don't feel very included within a company, then you run the risk of alienating fast growing segments of the population, and that's going to be your customer base. So AAPI folks, Asian American Pacific Islander folks, that's the fastest growing ethnic minority group. Hispanic Latinos would be the second fastest growing. So, if you're in those groups and you start to see these companies have, awful track records in terms of hiring people who look like me, then you might risk alienating them, and as a consumer, I might be less likely to buy. So something for the companies to keep in mind. Let's go beyond the marketing campaigns that make people feel like you're actually doing the work. Let's get to actually doing the work and getting more diverse talent hired.
I wish that we could see how Dove did when they put out that ad. The ad that we showed
Last week.
To see like what was the correlation between putting that ad out versus the number of people of color who applied.
They got Twitter backlash, and maybe they doubled down on the strategy. Maybe apologize. I do remember seeing a lot more diverse ads from Dove after that. So I think they continued with it, but in smarter ways than that. And same thing with that Pepsi ad that we showed. So yeah. I think folks are learning, but they need to accelerate their impact in terms of their strategies and their tactics. And you have companies
get with the times, people.
Yeah, you have companies like my own, Answers, and companies like yours and What Now Works that can help with that. So again, on the strategy, product and data side, my team and I, we would love to work with companies to really, scale the social impact related to diversity, inclusion, and equity, particularly when it comes to tech companies. So we look forward to continuing to impact that kind of work. I know you're deeply entrenched in that too, Derrick. So come holler at us, because we have some insights to share. So it's a win-win for everybody. So with that, I think that wraps up our main topic, and we can move on to our right move right now. So it's not just National Coming Out Day. It is also Indigenous Peoples Day. So what did you want to say about that, Derrick?
I want to take everyone back to, I forget what year it was, but I was probably in 11th or 12th grade. There was this class I had in Midwood. The name of it I can't remember, but shout outs to Mr. Bonavita. But basically this class showed the truth to history. And you know how teachers used to write the aim would be whatever the I guess that lesson is of the day. And for him, he put the only Christopher we acknowledge is Wallace. And at first I was like, that's Mickey. I'm like, what's going on? And then he literally explained all of the stuff that Christopher Columbus did, and I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I've never took the time to really think about why he had his own day. But whenever this day does come around, I make sure to put that somewhere. So I just wanted to share that with everyone here that the only Christopher we acknowledge on this day is Wallace.
That is culturally relevant teaching right there. What's your teacher's name again?
Mr. Bonavita.
Shout out to Mr. Bonavita. Hope you're still educating the masses. It sounds like just from that anecdote, you're a good teacher. So shout out to all the teachers out there hanging in there in
it's rough for them right now.
Yeah, pandemic teaching times. And I think for me, my right move right now is to pay attention to the markets and its earnings season. So again, seasonally, this isn't the best year for this isn't the best time of year for stocks. But then when you add earnings season on top of it, um, be ready to buy some of your favorite companies on dips, because some of these earnings reports might reflect, these higher prices for literally everything. So it might reflect inflation, it might reflect some of the supply chain issues, and that might, ding a few high quality stocks. So I'm still very cautious right now. But one of my stocks today, SoFi, got a bump from a positive note from Morgan Stanley. So I was up, I think 12% at last check just today alone.
In one day?
Yeah, so I'm holding on, right? I'm up close to 25% on SoFi from where I bought it.
Okay.
And I told you that was one of my big purchases a couple months ago. I revealed that on the show on a previous episode. I thought that was my fintech angle. So I'm holding strong on that, and ready to ride this wave of volatility with some extra cash on the sidelines, ready for any dips during earnings season. So I hope everybody out there is paying attention to their investments if you're involved in the stock market.
Yeah, I know. I think Netflix has earnings. I don't know if it's this week, or I know sometime this month though.
Yeah, this week is the start of big time earnings from companies. So we'll see what happens throughout the next couple of weeks. And we hope our audience continues to follow, support, hit like, comment, share out some of our episodes. We're going to list some of our episodes in LinkedIn posts from our individual accounts, so that folks can have a nice quick rundown of some of the topics that we've covered, so that we can continue helping folks find the upside in their careers, in their business ventures, and in their personal lives. With that, we wish everybody a good night and happy rest of the week.
Yes, enjoy. See you all next